Okay, thank you. Okay, yeah, here we go. It is our fifth episode, and you're our amazing fifth guest and the mayor of Miramichi. Thank you for coming, Adam. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me, Cheyenne. I guess five's my new lucky number.
Oh, really? Is it?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's amazing. I was so excited to have you for this podcast because of your knowledge, all of your experiences in the city. And personally, I really admire your all of the hard work, your leadership, and everything you have done for the city of Miramichi. And for that reason, I know I was watching so many like podcasts that you were in with Veronique and Judy Lozier, and another podcast which was recording at the O'Donoghue's. I saw you were there too. So I really, before me as a kind of a newcomer, when I came to the city, these programs really helped me to get to know the city, who is the mayor, what are his or her plans, and what they are doing. So this really helped me to kind of get to know the city. And when I step into the city and when I came here, I kind of was familiar with everything. I know the people. They didn't know me, but I know almost like everybody. Yeah, but and that's another reason I started this podcast, to tell more people about Miramichi. I want to promote this city, the culture, and the history behind it. And for the beginning of this podcast, we had like two great, amazing sponsors: the city of Miramichi and the Rot Hotel, also, who provide us this room so we can record our podcast here. Yeah. So as I said, like, thank you for coming. And I think I can start with your jobs in the city, because I know you, beside being a mayor, you have other jobs too. Would you like to talk about that a little bit for the beginning of our podcast?
Sure. Yeah. And by the way, thanks for having me, and congrats on launching the podcast. Like you mentioned, I've done a few of these over the years now, because I think it's always important to support people who want to, be creative and also help to promote the city and the region, and really all of New Brunswick. So I'm happy to be here, and I hope that I'll be the fifth of many, many podcasts for you. But as you mentioned, it's funny, this is a bit of familiar territory for me too, Cheyenne, because as you probably know, my professional career is in media as well. So being the mayor in Miramichi is only a part-time role because of the size of our city. We're not too small, but we're not very big either. So the role is part-time in nature. I came back home when I was 30 and got involved and on council and became mayor. But before then, of course, I had an entire career, and I've continued that since. So I took a business degree in commerce, marketing and management at St. Mary's University in Halifax after I graduated here from James M. Hill.
Okay.
And I went to Toronto, and I had a job that I had gotten. It was in marketing, sort of business to business marketing, not very exciting marketing.
Right.
And I became aware that, in Toronto is the media capital of Canada. Mm-hmm. There were a lot of opportunities to maybe work in television or media. And I was still young, and I thought, I think I'd like to give that a try. Okay. It was always an interest for me. And so I went back to school to Humber College in the Toronto area, did a 1-year course in television production and writing. And I interned. My first kind of gig was interning at MTV Canada, which doesn't really exist anymore.
Oh,
but I'm sure you're familiar with MTV.
Yes, yeah.
We had our own Canadian version for about 20 years. So I started interning there. I got a job. My first paid job was as a driver on a TV show. And I kind of worked my way up from there, driver into the audience department. My first sort of producing job was on the Marilyn Dennis Show, which was a daytime lifestyle talk show in Canada. It was the number one daytime show for a lot of years. Marilyn just finished that show 2 years ago. They did 13 seasons.
Wow.
And I was there for the first 4 before I came back to Miramichi. So I was producing, writing, and directing different field pieces that would go into the show. And since I got home, I continued working in my industry as, again, producer, writer, director. I have my own production company here in Miramichi, Neenan Productions. So I work on lots of different shows that are out there, like The Amazing Race Canada.
Yeah.
I've worked on that show 6 years now, including last year here in Miramichi, which I know we'll talk about later.
That's right.
And we also do our own projects. So I've directed and produced a lot of documentary films, animated children's shows, and some commercial work. In particular, a lot of work over the years with Tourism New Brunswick. So capturing content to promote New Brunswick across Canada and across the world, which has been a lot of fun too.
Nice. Yeah. It was so funny that you mentioned, not funny actually, you mentioned about the Amazing Race Canada. You started, not the Amazing Race Canada, sorry. You started your career as being like a driver in the production. I was part of the Amazing Race Canada being a driver too. And this field of marketing and the media is kind of my favorite. I studied architecture in Iran, and here I study electrical. Have never been in this field like a professionally, but I was thinking maybe this is a career that I might be able to continue, like not even as a podcaster, at the media marketing maybe. And it's so nice. So I kind of see myself, as I said, you were like starting with a driver. I started with driver with the Amazing Race Canada here in Miramichi, and it's so nice. But when you mentioned that, you said you came back to Miramichi when you were 30. And when I was searching about the cities that I want to move to Canada, I feel like you are one of the youngest mayor in the whole entire Canada. And it was so interesting. And at the same time, it usually hard to happen in as you said, a small community, a small city like Miramichi. But I was wondering, I do know that your mom was city councilor, and I just today realized that she used to be also the deputy mayor too. Does your mom, inspired you to take a step into this political world, I can say, or being a mayor and be more involved in the community?
Absolutely. Yeah, my mom is probably my greatest inspiration. You know, I think she's my hero, and she was a single mom, raised three of us by herself, working full time, doing that, often taking on second jobs so she could pay the bills, and you know, getting involved on council to help make the community better, not just for us, but for everybody. So, you know, my mom had incredible, I think, compassion and passion for the community, but compassion for people. She was the kind of person that brought people together and built people up and supported people. And, you know, so that's something that I certainly tried to bring to the role as well. You know, when my mom first ran for council, I was living in Toronto at the time. I came home and helped, you know, with the marketing for her campaign, helped her organize. I'd say that we inspired each other in a lot of ways. I helped her also with some of her platform ideas. And, you know, we went and knocked on a lot of doors that first time. And, you know, how it usually works here in Miramichi is the person who gets the most votes for council becomes the deputy mayor. Right. And so my mom, that first election she was in, had the most votes by hundreds. Like she ran away with it, so to speak. And it was incredibly exciting. And I can still see her that night and the excitement, because, you know, my mom spent her whole life putting other people first, including us as her kids and everybody else too, her big extended family, coworkers. So for her to have a moment that was really also just about her was really special for me to experience. And so absolutely, you know, when I came home, it was because my mom was diagnosed with cancer. So I came home to be with her, and then she passed away.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you. And there was 1 year left on her second term of council. And that's why I got involved. Was I wanted to run. Just at the time, my only plan was to do that last year of my mom's term, because it had been a project that we had worked on together to be involved in the community. And I was going to be home settling things up for my mom. And I thought, well, I'll run for that last year and finish what we started. And after that year, I was able to kind of start working again in my own field and realize that I didn't have to go back to Toronto to stay in my career. So then I could stay at home, do my career, and also stay involved in the community and try to make things better for Miramichi. And, you know, there were such opportunities of what we could become. And, you know, 10 years later now, we've I think come a long way and taken advantage of a lot of those. And I'm really pleased to be a part of it. But it all was really because I was inspired by my mom. Absolutely. And then once I was there, you know, realizing that you can have such an impact, everything that's come from then, certainly in so many ways, is because of my mom.
Right. Yeah, that's a really great story, and I'm sure she's really proud of you. You did a lot of good things for the community of Miramichi, and it was a really great story. Yeah. And but as you said, like so you said you started your career, like your mom is still could have served the community one more year, and then you got elected. What, how was that process work? I didn't understand that part. It was another election, right? Or
Yeah, well, because she passed away,
oh, okay.
then this, it's just like, recently when Sam Johnson was elected provincially and Tara Ross Robinson resigned. So we just
Another
for 2 new seats, right?
okay,
So
okay.
when somebody is no longer there, whether it's because they pass away or they resign or they move to another level of politics. Once the seats are open, then it creates a by-election. So that's what just happened as well, in that we just elected 2 new councillors, and they're only there for 1 year
Right.
for the rest of this term that we've been in. So next May in 2026, there'll be another full election. So the mayor and all the councillors will be reelected in 2026. So certainly anybody out there thinking about getting involved, that'll be a big opportunity next year.
Yeah, that was actually my question. That is it. When is the next election for the city council? Is that at the same time for the mayor being a mayor too, or
yes,
it's a whole okay?
Yeah. So the mayor and councillors will all be there'll be an election next May for all of us.
Yes, yeah, that's good to know, and that's a good announcement that whoever wants to get involved in the community and make changes or be heard more, it's great opportunity. I think they can take a step into it. I'm sure it has a lot of challenges, but it has its own like a fun part too, being as a for being as a city council and or the mayor. But I'm kind of also curious about, I'm sure many others may be curious, that you are the mayor as a part-time. How does it work? Like, and do you also have a vote on the city council?
Yeah, so it depends. In Miramichi right now, the mayor does get a vote. My first term, the mayor did not get a vote. So that's different. Every city can choose themselves.
Okay.
So some cities, the mayor votes. Other cities, the mayor only votes if it's a tie among the councillors. So that in our city now, I do vote. Certainly as a part-time mayor, being a mayor and being on council, there's not exactly like a playbook of exactly how to do it. There are some basic responsibilities, but also it's up to you to make it what you'd like it to be, right? And so in some ways, there's endless opportunity to do as much as you possibly can. And that's one of the things I think you have to learn in a part-time role is I could do more. I could never stop, but I also need to balance that with my personal work because I need to make a living and I need to provide for my family. And then also balancing your mayor work and your personal work with personal responsibilities, family responsibilities, trying to have some work-life balance too. Luckily for me, I've been really fortunate in my life that most of the work I do, whether it's my media work or my mayor work, is work that I really am passionate about. So it's work that's also almost a hobby. And so a lot of what we do, it sometimes it does feel like work, don't get me wrong, but it feels very rewarding too. And that's like everything in life where, most things that are worth doing or that you set goals and you try to achieve, there's always going to be, and it's not always going to be easy, but when things are a challenge, that makes them more rewarding when you can see them done, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. That's very important part of the life, that the people take a step into the career that they are really passionate about and they love it. But so another reason in the first episode I mentioned about it, that another reason that I started this podcast is about the free speech. And while you were talking about it, it came to my mind that these days, recently you also mentioned at the state of the city about kind of the toxic environment on the social media, that some people doesn't respect to some of the politician or each other's opinion. And that's a thing that really make me sad and also angry, because we are living in a country that the people are free to share their own perspective and their own idea, and we should really respect to each other at the same time. I'm sure most of them is not happening in the real world, it's mostly in the social media. But being as a city councilor or the mayor, I think that one of the challenging part would be that part. So even whatever project you're starting or not starting, you are receiving a lot of like feedback on them. And but yeah, that's one of the reasons I started this podcast, to remind everybody we are living in a free country with the free speech, so we need to really respect each other's word. And I don't know, I'm sure it's, I don't know how hard is usually dealing with this type of comments for you.
It doesn't bother me, but I work professionally in media, and I understand that it comes with the territory. Sometimes it gets to you, but I think what's important to understand is, social media. When I started as mayor or on council in 2015, I was the first person on council to use social media to try to help get our messages out of what we were doing. And for the first few years, it worked really well. And it was very constructive and positive, and not just in a political context, but it does feel like, it's almost like social media has peaked in terms of its usefulness. And it wasn't just in a local context. You recall hearing about social media being used when there were like the Arab Spring and different events happening around the world, and social media was being used for people to be able to share with the world what was really happening in some of these places, right? What I think we've seen now, and it's not just social media, but it's an erosion of traditional media, certainly local media. When I started, we had a local newspaper here that came out 3 days a week, and now we have a little bit of a tabloid that goes in the flyer bag, and most of it's not really local anyway.
Right.
And that's not unique to Miramichi. That's happening in a bigger context. But, people are always going to be entitled to their own opinions and perspectives. The challenge is that these days, it seems like people feel entitled to their own facts. Or, sometimes there is truth, there is data, there are facts that exist, and we can disagree on what we think should happen. The other thing is just how people present it. So we can disagree, but we need to do that respectfully, right? Respectful. So I think we had a gentleman come to council the other night, and he had different perspectives than on some of the things council's done than we do.
Okay.
And that's okay. But the way that it was presented was, well, you're all idiots, and I know everything. You don't know anything. And, ultimately, again, we can disagree on what should happen. Right. That's a normal part of democracy. That's healthy. But it's when you're assuming that everybody else is an idiot except yourself, I think that's when you have maybe there's an evaluation of how you might want to present your arguments that needs to happen there. And, for me, everything we do, I'm a very thoughtful person. Some people might say I overthink, but I don't make decisions lightly. And it is our job also to make decisions as elected officials that are in the best interest of the entire community, the greater good, right? So how can we have the best outcomes for the most amount of people? But ultimately, not everybody is going to agree on everything. And absolutely. I think that, that's something that anybody in public office has to figure out for themselves. Is it's always important. Everything we do, by the way, is based on public consultation. When we build a plan, and to me, I'm a big systems guy. So you have to figure out, how does the system work? How do you get things done for us in local government at the municipal level, but also provincially and federally for them too. So, you have to study an issue, any given issue. You have to consult the public, listen to what people are saying and what they want. You have to consult the best practices and the experts in that content area, and build a plan. You have to have a consensus. You have to have a majority of people who can agree on a path forward. And then you have to stick to that path forward and do it. Sometimes that's a one-time thing. Sometimes that's over a number of years. And how you create progress is when you keep people aligned on a vision that turns into a plan that you actually make happen. So when you're at the council table and we vote to make something happen, that really is only the first step. Because if it doesn't end up happening, we vote on it, and then the staff have to go do it, or we do, or the group of people that's got to go make something happen. So when it's voted on and decided, that's really only step one. Because sometimes like building a multiplex, it will take years to do that after it's been voted on. So it's really important for people to listen to the public, but then we have to make decisions, and then we have to make sure that things happen. And I think that's some of what you're seeing now is with social media and a lack of awareness in general. People sometimes want to speak before they actually know what they're talking about. Right. And also, like, a lot of the things that people seem to be concerned about now are decisions that were made years ago, and they would have had an opportunity to participate.
Mhm.
And that's why it's so important for citizens to stay engaged,
Yep.
because, you might have a problem with something now, but 2 or 3 years ago might have been your chance to have input on that. And so it's always important to stay engaged. We do the best that we can, but communication is always difficult. So I think that's another reason why I love to do things like this, because we can't talk enough about what we're doing and why, and also asking for that feedback.
Yeah, that communication is the really most important part of it. I remember for the first time I came to Miramichi, I even had a meeting with media marketing of the city hall that saying we really need also the Instagram. I don't know if for example, now already the city have the Instagram or not, but for example, I was trying to share some of my ideas also about the Facebook page, about the website, about some other stuff that the people, not only locals, but also whoever wants to come to the Miramichi as a newcomers or as just a tourist, they can get to know the city better. So that communication is very important. And that system that you also mentioned about, that whoever wants to make a project done and you also love to support the system and follow the system, that taught me a lot of lessons, especially for my ideas, that it's not kind of just only my ideas, it's kind of my dream that I want to illuminate the Centennial Bridge in Miramichi. So when I started with that idea for this project, so I was sure that someone else before me had this idea, and the city council and you also come up with this project idea in the city. But there were so many challenges. But I give it a try also again with myself, and I'm still working on it because it's a dream that is never gonna, die in my mind. But this taught me a big lesson that there is a process and there is a system, and if I find out that system and the process, I can make some projects happen. And so I talk about the bridge. So I want to move to another of our podcast part of the podcast, that since I came here, Miramichi had done so many big and great projects which have a huge impact on our community, like the multiplex, the renovation of the bridge, and the project that we had as an eclipse, and for example the Amazing Race Canada that you were involved. I was also involved as a driver. And I have just some question about I don't know, it's just like, yeah, my curiosity, that for example, for when they are gonna renovate the bridge, I heard that there are like some extra expenses if they want to add a sidewalk, for example, to it, which is about around, for example, 30 million, for example, dollar. And I was wondering, in this type of situation, when something, for example, really needed, but because of the expenses that the city or like the federal, but I think it's a provincial bridge, when the province cannot, I don't know, should I say this word, cannot afford or doesn't have this on their budget to add it, because the bridge is already totally is under the renovation, and in the near future we are just gonna have some bridge closure to finish the project. But I don't know, you might know better than me if the sidewalk is included, and if not, is it like, I'm sure it is an opportunity in the future to add it, but how does this system works when something is needed? Where the budgeting in this type of system works, do you know?
Well, so as you mentioned, the Centennial Bridge it's a provincially owned piece of infrastructure. So this would be their decision. I would say, Cheyenne, I love your idea of lighting up the bridge. We had the same idea in 2017 when we were celebrating Canada's 150th anniversary. And we thought that lighting up the bridge then would have been a really great project to commemorate the 150. And I know recently you've taken the leadership of trying to make that happen as well. And I really hope that one day that will happen too. When it comes to the sidewalk, our understanding is that is something over the course of this bridge project. Now, the bridge project has been delayed for many years, so it was supposed to be done by now,
Okay.
and they've delayed it about 4 or 5 years.
Wow.
And there's been 3 different provincial governments that have now been responsible, and each has had delays in their own way. So it's not to blame any one party or government, but it's clearly been an issue. And the sidewalk was not part of the plan, and then it was part of the plan. And now we're being told they're still evaluating or reevaluating that. Certainly as a city, we hope that there will be a sidewalk. We understand, and we've been advocating that there is a lot of folks who use that sidewalk, people who live in Chatham and who access employment or services over in Douglastown. A lot of those folks are lower income and they're walking across the bridge because they may not be able to afford a car. So we are hoping to see that the sidewalk will be included, but it will be up to them. And, you know, when you're in government, even for us at the local level, and certainly as you go to a provincial level, it's bigger. There's a lot more that they're responsible for and more money, and even more so federally, right?
Right.
But there is always, you know, you can say, you know, can we afford it? And there are different layers to that question because, you know, you might ask yourself, is it worth the money? Is it a good investment? People are going to have different perspectives on that. And it's also, you know, no government is ever just doing one thing. So there is constraints because you're never going to have enough money to do everything that you would like to do. So you have to create priorities, right? So it's really about prioritization. And, you know, for a provincial government to make that decision, they would be looking at a number of things, right? What else might they be wanting to spend that money on? How many people do they think are going to use it? And so we'll wait to see what they say. But also that's why, you know, there are different parties or leaders that present themselves in an election. Like right now, in the federal election, you know, there are very different choices on offer for who we'd like to see be our next prime minister. And, you know, for right now, we just secured $3 million of federal money to help us build the new housing. Right? And Mr. Carney wants to keep that money and give us more to help us build housing. Mr. Polyev wants to take that money away, even though it's already been promised to us. So, you know, as a leader, as a mayor, there's one choice that's definitely better than the other one in terms of helping us continue to build housing, which is our number one priority. As it relates to a bridge sidewalk, we've made it clear as local leadership that we think that's important. There's been one for the last 50 years. And if they take it out, it would be a reduction in the level of service to Miramichi. But they will have to make that decision and ultimately live with it. And that's really what we all do as leaders, is we have to evaluate the decisions and make the decision that we think is best. But, you know, different people are going to bring different value systems and different decision-making criteria and different approaches to the table. That's why it's really important in elections to understand what people are presenting and offering, because they're going to make it clear on this issue, here's what we think. But then there's going to be a lot of issues like a bridge sidewalk that you don't really know, but you have to say, well, what perspective and values are they bringing to government? And that might give you an insight into where they may make those other decisions that are going to come up. We all go into elected positions with the goals and plans that we want to make happen, and then other things get in the way. And so we have to deal with the stuff that are surprises as well as the stuff that we came there to do.
Right. Yep. So that was great to know. So I usually really do care about having a leverage. You as a mayor, when you go to the in a provincial level, you have some ideas. For example, you imagine you want to make this sidewalk for sure happen. What I believe, it's definitely give you so much leverage if you have the support of the people. I was wondering if you wanted to, for example, let the citizens or the local people or whoever like live in the city of Miramichi know that how they can help and support your ideas or support some of the projects. Sometimes even there are some people totally, they might not be agree with some of your project, but they want, for example, some projects happen like the bridge and the sidewalk or many others. If they also want to be part of this and they help you as their leader, as their mayor, or we have also MLAs that they want to help them or you, what is your advice to them that they can get involved?
Well, it's a really, really good question, Cheyenne. And that's really about government, democracy, community. Ultimately, governments do respond when they feel that there is a majority of people, when there are loud voices and a lot of them who feel something should happen or not happen. That can often guide those decisions and that decision-making process. So for citizens, it's absolutely crucial. If you feel passionate, if you have an opinion on something, send it in. So for the city, that means sending messages to your mayor and council, sending messages, emails, and letters to the city clerk, because the city clerk is the official conduit of the record keeping for the city. So if you want your opinion to go officially on the record, you would send it into the clerk, gets sent to council, and it will get put on the public record. When we're doing things or building a plan or asking, like we just built an outdoor recreation strategy. So 10 years of a 10-year plan for building the outdoor recreation plan for Miramichi. We're going to do the same thing this year, go through a public consultation process for a growth plan, which will identify where we want to target the growth of housing and commercial opportunities in the city over the next 20 years. So when there are public engagement opportunities, public consultation opportunities, engage in those processes. They really do matter. Those will be the foundation of how the plans will get built. So engage in consultation processes when they are available at the front end, but never be shy to let your opinions be known at any given moment for the city or any other level of government. And when you're an elected official like the mayor or council or MLAs or MP, look, the truth is, and I've been in this now 9 years, there's no such thing as everybody agreeing on everything, right?
You're right.
So for me, the approach that I take as a mayor is even at our council level, respect, and with everybody, respect is so important because we don't have a party system municipally, right? So, we're not all elected to come in as red or blue and stay on our color no matter what. So we have to be really thoughtful and respectful because you and I might disagree on this issue today, but tomorrow we're going to agree on the next thing. And we need to be able to work together.
Right.
And it's the same thing as the mayor, as the representative, the spokesperson, the ambassador for our community to the other levels of government. In 9 years now, I've worked with conservative and liberal provincial governments and conservative and liberal federal governments. And we don't agree sometimes on different things. And it's not because of their party. Like whether you're going to fix the bridge is not really like a left or right conservative liberal concept, but it's practical. A lot of it is practical. And we have to be respectful. I don't very often go out and be aggressive in public. To me, if you go out and you're yelling and you're aggressive, you have nowhere else to go if that's where you start. So I always want to start by being quite diplomatic, by trying to sit down, understand where they're coming from, understand their perspectives, their constraints, and sharing our own and advocating for the community. It is easier when you know that the public support is on your side. But diplomacy is getting into the room and trying to figure out if they're going to go a different way, how can we get them as close to what's in the best interests of Miramichi as possible? And you can't do that if you go in a conflict-based environment. So I've always tried to take a diplomatic approach to the work because they're going to be around for a while and so am I. So we need to be respectful, even if we won't align on, say, a sidewalk on a bridge, because we might need to align on an active transportation project or funding for housing infrastructure or whatever the next thing is that's coming down the road.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I asked that question. It came up in my mind. It was not even on my list, but because there were so many great advice for the citizens, and also it answered one of my questions that I saw some like an influencer or like a people in a political world. They are always talking about the really importance of the voting, and now I was never had a great understanding of that, why it is really that much important. And now by what you said, I realized why now it is really important to vote. That the more people contribute, doesn't matter in which side or which party even gets selected, it is matter, I know, but the majority of people, when they come out, when they see, for example, in a federal level or provincial level, for example, 90% of the Miramichi people come out and vote for whatever they want, it is bring much more value and give you most leverage, and the MLA is most leverage in the provincial level and or member of parliament in a what's the name in the federal level, because they can go to their council, to their legislative hall or anywhere. That same, for example, Miramichi, 90% of the people who could have voted, they came out and vote, and we are engaging. We have a engagement community, and so it is very important. That really answered one of some of my questions. And we want to very quick, very have a little talking about some of the projects. I know we don't have much more time left, but I just want to mention, I mentioned it about the project that you were involved and the many other city councils and lots of volunteers made this project happen, and like a total eclipse, the water splash, which is upcoming in the next 2 years, I think.
The a new splash pad in Chatham, the Chatham area where the Ian Bailey School used to be. Yes, so that's a project that's been years in the making and planning, and it is scheduled to come online next year, 2026. Yeah,
right.
Across from where the skate park has been installed too.
Right, nice, amazing. And the Amazing Race Canada. And but about the total eclipse, I was at the State of the City. There was a fun part of your presentation, which we had 3 private jets that came to Miramichi to watch the eclipse, and the fuel that they kind of bought from us, it was like $10,000. And this number was so funny to me, because there are some, like this project, we never probably expect that they come here, but when we usually are starting some project and it has some other side effect benefits for the Miramichi. And in that eclipse program, I love the drone show which was happened the nights before the eclipse happening at the airport. There was, honestly, I had some like a feedback on that too, that for example, about the eclipse itself, the event was good. There was like more than 6,000 people showed up that day. But for example, about like a food truck and the side events, I was kind of not really happy with that. So there was like only one food truck and there was a line. We were not there for food, but it would be much better to have many more people to kind of come showcase their business at the same time, because there was 6,000 people. But this is good that now I know when I have a feedback, I can, as you said, send the email to the clerk, share these ideas.
In that example, sorry, and you're not the only person to have that feedback. We had that feedback as members of council for the staff who ultimately do the work, right? But I think in that, there were things that definitely could have been done better. They told us because it was April, that none of the food trucks were open yet, so they wouldn't come. I know that certainly they forgot to incorporate accessible washrooms. And that was a disappointing error as well, and something that we learned from. But I mean, on the more positive side, as you mentioned, the overall impact of that event in the community was $4.5 million. Yep. And people came from across the world to Miramichi. We were gifted, being one of the best places in the world to see that eclipse. And, to our credit as a community, not just the city, but lots of other organizations and people too, people built around this natural opportunity that was presented to us. And I think in general, just to give a quick plug for it, because I know we're going to be running out of time here, but is that because we just had the State of the City, which for people who don't know, was a big event where I was able to give a big recap of some of the highlights of what's happened in the city the last year and talk about some of our plans for this year. That's now all on the city's website. So people can go to miramichi.org and see the entire presentation, all the stats, all the photos, all the good news. You can check it out on my Facebook page as well. But that way people can have a chance to go and hear about all of it in detail.
Yeah, I was gonna actually mention about that, but thank you for mentioning that. I was gonna say people should have go see that presentation. It was a very full presentation. I know at the State of the City, you were also short of time. We could have seen all the slides.
Yes,
but
well, it's never enough. So we do our best.
Yeah, but I watched personally after that. I went to the website, I downloaded it, and it was a great presentation. As I said, so since we are kind of running out of time, we have this tradition that we ask our guests to pass the mic to the next person that you personally want to see on this podcast and sitting on that chair and be part of the very best podcast. Who would you recommend us that we can invite them?
Well, I was thinking about this, and I think I'd love, there's lots of people that I'd love to see. I think I'd recommend, I know you're going to have lots of episodes, Deputy Mayor Patty Quinn would be a great person to have on the podcast. Patty, is really involved in a number of areas in the community, especially sports. Councillor Chad is always a very thoughtful person. Sam Johnson, the MLA now, or Michelle Conroy, the other MLA. I know Michelle. You guys are friends. And then also Sean McCarthy is a local historian. I know you mentioned that part of what you want to bring to the podcast is history. And Sean is a brilliant.
Just a quick note, sorry, in the middle of that, because this episode is still not, or podcast is still not out. We already invited Sean McCarthy as our second guest. Okay. So the episode will be out. I know you didn't watch the episode yet, but it will be out like probably next 2 weeks after this episode is recording. So because when we started this podcast, because of the scheduling, we had a podcast recording ahead. So we are like 4 episodes ahead, kind of.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, that's a great, we were talking about Nelson area. And so for sure, we are going to have Paddy Coyne is a great friend of mine, and many other city councillors. I have a lot of friends, and they all did a lot of favors to me. They were all very nice to me. Paddy Coyne and Michelle Conroy were one of the 2 great people. As I said, like everybody were nice. I don't want to like put any exceptions, but these 2 people were really like took my hand and taught me everything. Like Michelle Conroy, whenever we went from the legislative hall to any different part of the city, she was really teaching me about the Miramichi, telling me all the stories, all the political stuff. And in the city level, also Paddy Coyne was the same. And I learned a lot from both of them, and at the same time from the rest of the city councilors too. I know all of them, and I always having a great chat with them. And thank you for all of these names. We will.
Yes, and Judy, my good friend Judy Loge.
Yeah, I mentioned that. So yeah, whoever we mentioned, we usually review the video, and we will try to invite them for sure. Judy would be amazing asset for this podcast, I'm sure. And another thing that I'm trying to do with this podcast, that give a voice to some of the local businesses that might not be able to promote themselves as much as possible. So I'm making this media that be able to help them to grow. So each episode we are asking our guests to promote or name one of the local businesses also here in Miramichi, so we can kind of help them and encourage people to use their services, whatever they are. So what would you recommend us for this episode?
Yeah, well, I have a couple.
Sure.
I came with a little list.
Sure.
And because it's always great to support local businesses, right?
Absolutely.
And I wanted to just sort of acknowledge, Cheyenne, and we're here, as you mentioned, at the Rod in downtown Chatham. And in the last few weeks, I've been to several grand openings of new businesses here in Chatham. So there's one called the Multiverse, just up on Water Street here, and that they've it's a bit of a collective. So there's someone that's doing bubble tea, someone that's doing cookies, and then someone that's doing, comic books and different kinds of action adventure. They call it the nerdy stuff, So that's one. Check This Out is a brand new, the chicken restaurant opened by Joy and her family, the Filipino community. And also just last weekend, I had a young man, Gabriel, his name is, I forget the name of the business, but Gabriel, who's also in the Filipino community, came to my house to share with me that he had just started a car detailing business,
right?
A mobile car detailing. So he'll go to you to do your detailing. And then another car detailing was also opened by someone else, both of them living on my street, on Howard Street. Really? So that's a number in Chatham. I also wanted to just reference Town Ford and Town Mazda because, Hal Summers and the Summers family, they invest so much in the community and they give back, like so many businesses do. But, they just opened that new Town Mazda, a big, beautiful building. They invested millions of dollars to build that building here in Miramichi. Yeah. And when someone invests like that they're going to be supporting the community in here for a while. Same with Arbeck, the mill, who just committed $4 million to the multiplex. But the last one, my shout out, in addition to all of those, one of my favorite places to go, because I'm a foodie. I don't know if you knew this. I'm a foodie. I love good food. I love to go out for a nice meal. And Namaste Bistro, just across the road here from the Rod, is probably my favorite place to go out. Evan and I love to go out for a nice dinner. We'll have a glass of wine, have some delicious Indian food. I think it's the best Indian food in New Brunswick.
Right.
It's so good. And that they were newcomers. They came from PEI to open this business. They've now opened one in Fredericton and Sackville, New Brunswick as well. So it's a big success. And yeah, that's my so all of these, but especially Namaste Bistro is one of my favorite places to go.
Yeah, I think Namaste Bistro is the most popular one in Miramichi. I think everybody loved that. I don't think anybody say any bad thing about Namaste here in Miramichi, and that's a good thing. I like to hear their story also, what's happened that they opened this business in Miramichi. Maybe you may be able to connect me with them, so I will invite them for sure on this podcast.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, that would be amazing. It's another guest. It would be another episode, and
you're gonna be busy.
Yeah. So usually we, as I said, we are trying to recording once at least per week, but I'm sure I'm gonna make more time for this. I have my own job too. I'm also involved with many boards and my personal projects, so I'm also busy, but I'm trying to focus more on this podcast. It's I'm having a lot of fun each week. I'm having a guest and I love what I'm doing, and at the same time, what I love is another tradition of this podcast is gift exchange. We always have a memory for you that you can have and remember this memory that we made together this on this podcast. And also we are always asking our guests to bring the very best community a gift we put them at the end of each year, we put them on auction and sell them and get back to the community. So if we have the gift for Adam, and I would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Podcast helpers.
So this is our gift for you from one of the local businesses which always have a table at the farmers market. She's always like printing on the different whatever you want on a wood, and we are thinking we can have this as an appreciation for you of being on this.
That's very nice, Cheyenne.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And so one of the things that we didn't get to talk about, but as you know, this is the 30th anniversary of the city this year. And so we've been doing some commemorative coins for the 30th anniversary. We don't have them ready yet, but we did the same thing 5 years ago for the 25th anniversary.
Right.
So this is, now a special collector's item because we're going to have new ones for the 30th, but it's a 25th anniversary coin. And then also the 25th anniversary
hat
to celebrate which I guess, 25th is the silver anniversary, I think. So that would be a nice touch to give to you. And, we'll have to get you some of the 30th ones when they're ready as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm so excited for the 30th. So the last time when the people bringing gift I don't know why they're doing that to me. They are bringing gift that's something that I love. And then I'm saying, oh, these are not my gifts. They are going to be sold and I not be able to buy all of them for sure. But I'm so happy with this because Councillor Chad Duplessis gave me one of these coins for one of the Canadian anniversary. So each year when I'm here, I'm gathering friends to celebrate while I'm in Canada for my Canadian anniversary. So I have this, but this is a great thing that we can put it on our exhibition and sell them. It is a very great collection, and I'm hoping that can be sold very expensive so we can raise more money to help our community better. And I love that too. But yeah, we will add them to the exhibition for sure. And thank you so much. I appreciate it for this.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I'm sure we're wrapping up now, Cheyenne. So I do want to thank you too. I'm sure you know this, but you have been such a ray of light in Miramichi since you arrived here. I feel like I met you very early on when you arrived here, and your passion for the community just shines through. And I think your passion for people and for trying to always help make things better, no matter where you are. If you were somewhere else, you'd be doing the same thing, but we're certainly glad to have you here in Miramichi. And really, I think for everybody out there, that's what it's all about. We've talked a lot today about politics and how do you make your voice heard with elected officials, but how we make a really wonderful, vibrant community. It's about all of those things that we've talked about and connecting with your elected officials and your governments. But it's also about what we do every day in our own lives and on the ground. So there are so many ways to get involved in the community and to help to support other people that don't involve politics either. So, my advice to people is to just pick something that you're interested in and get involved. So whether that's a club or a group or a hobby, maybe you want to get involved with a nonprofit and help other people out, a local church, whatever it is, find what you're interested in and then, go find those people, roll up your sleeves and make a difference. Events and festivals, like so much of what happens in a community like Miramichi, a small community like ours, it happens because people make it happen. And that's why we have such an awesome community, is because so many people get involved. But lots of people who've been involved for a lot of years, they're getting a little older. They might not be able to help as much. So for new folks that are coming to town of all ages from everywhere, we love how Miramichi is changing and becoming more diverse. But all of the things that we love about Miramichi, we have to have people that are getting involved to help make them happen and keep happening. So I encourage everybody to get involved out there. Pick one thing at least that you like, and then get involved in helping to make it happen.
Yeah, that was a great statement. And we in Miramichi, it seems like a small city, but we have a lot of things that the people can involve in. From the Mayor's Youth in Action Committee, they can share their ideas, and we have a lot of good teams over there. They are always sharing the youth voices, and Multicultural Association and many others, as you mentioned. And that's a great statement. Thank you. As you said, yeah, this is end of our podcast, but before we finish, we are having a fun part which we calling a Persian pop quiz. One of the Iranian podcaster, Nazanin Noor, she's doing this with having this fun with her guests. So what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna give you a Persian word. You can also repeat it if you want, and then I will also give you the translated version. And since it is a Persian, the translated version doesn't exactly mean that. So you just need to guess what's the actual meaning behind it. So today's Persian pop quiz is Havato daram, and it means I have your weather. So what?
Your what? Sorry.
Havato, you can maybe read from here. Havato daram.
Doram. Okay.
Yeah, Havato daram. That was a good pronunciation. Yeah, it means I have your weather. It doesn't mean that it's a translate to I have your weather. What do you think does it mean in Persian?
Maybe it's like the forecast.
No. Do you want to give another guess, and then I will give the...
Okay. Your weather. An umbrella?
No. I have your weather means I got your back. I will support you. Okay. Don't worry. I have Atodara. So the next time you want to say someone, I got your back, don't worry, or something, you can say, you go ahead. Havatodara. Havatodara. Okay. It's another Persian.
I want you and all of Miramichiers to know Havatodara. Got your back.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is the end of our episode. Thank you for watching, everyone. And I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this podcast with your friends and families. This is the support of our audience that gives value to our podcast the very best.